Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV. We're in the shop at Trailblazer and we're going to take you through a new RV orientation on this 2018 KZ-RV Connect 241 BHK. Start right here at the front of the trailer, where you've got your power tongue jack, propane system, and battery system. The power tongue jack, a nice simple operation, on-off switch for the hitch light, and simple extend and retract for the power jack. This cap on the top can be removed to manually crank the jack should you ever need to. There's a jack crank handle inside the front storage compartment. It just attaches right there should you ever need to manually crank your jack. To access your propane bottles, you can open the flap on the top of the cover, or you can just remove the entire cover. You've got two 20-pound propane tanks here. Both of these are full right now, and an automatic switchover propane regulator. On this regulator, you can see the red sight glass here showing that there is no propane flowing from the supply bottle. If we open that bottle, the sight glass will turn from red to clear, indicating that there's propane flowing. What we recommend is that you open both bottles. And when you open a propane bottle, always open the valve slowly and all the way. If both bottles are open, the regulator will deplete the first bottle first, and once this is empty, it will start to pull propane from the second bottle. When that happens, the sight glass will change from clear back to red, and you can manually switch the propane regulator over to the second bottle, remove the first bottle to go and refill it without ever shutting down your propane system. Behind the propane bottles is your battery. This is a 12-volt deep cycle RV battery with two leads going to it, red to the positive, black to the negative. It's a flooded wet cell battery, so it does require some maintenance. We recommend once a year pop these two caps off to expose the 6 cells underneath the caps. If you can see any of those cells, the liquid is a little bit low, especially if you can see metal plates sticking through the liquid. Just top it up with some distilled water, put a good charge on the battery. We also recommend removing the battery for winter storage. Once the battery is discharged, it can freeze, and once a flooded wet cell battery freezes, it's no good anymore. So remove the battery for storage, store it inside, somewhere where it's not going to freeze, and if possible, put a trickle charge on the battery once over the off season. Come on around the side of the trailer. Here's where your plug-in solar charging port is. And that's closed nice and tight, but you can pop that open to plug a portable Furrion solar charger in there, and that will charge your battery directly. Here in the pass-through storage compartment, you've got your 30 amp power cord. So this attaches to the trailer at the back. A lot of sites that you camp at will have 30 amp power, but for those that don't, we also supply the 15 amp park adapter to break that down to a normal 15 amp household power outlet. Sewer hose. This is a 20-foot medium heavy-duty sewer hose, as well as you've got a sewer hose sidewinder stand to ensure proper draining in your sewer hose. At all 4 corners of the trailer, you've got stabilizer jacks. So once you've got the RV parked and relatively level, crank your stabilizer jacks down to be snug with the ground, but you don't want to actually lift the trailer with them. Just snug with the ground, kind of take some of the side-to-side motion out of the trailer. Here at the running gear, a couple of things to cover. Your tires are inflated to 65 psi. It's stamped right on the side of the trailer, 65, or on the side of the tire, 65 psi cold, and we do recommend running them right at 65 psi. Also torqued your lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. We recommend periodic retorquing of your wheel nuts, as well as repacking of your wheel bearings. You can pop the center cap out of here to access a greaser, which allows you to grease your inner and outer wheel bearings with a grease gun. That doesn't eliminate the need to repack your wheel bearings, but it does prolong the intervals. So instead of repacking wheel bearings every year, maybe repack your wheel bearings every 2 or 3 years. This is where that power cord attaches. Here you've got two hose connections. The one on the right is your city water connection. So if you're parked at a site that has pressurized water hookups, you can hook a water hose directly up to this. That'll pressurize your water system right from the source. If you are going to hook into city water, we recommend you use a water pressure regulator. Just a little brass piece about that size that fits on the end of your hose to ensure a consistent water pressure in the RV and ensure that you don't over-pressurize the lines. Don't confuse this one with this one. This is your sewer tank flush. So when you're dumping your black water holding tanks, you can have a garden hose hooked up to here, preferably a different hose than what you use for your city water connection, and you can spray out the inside of your black holding tank. So it'll spray off the walls of the tank and the monitor probes, helping that monitor panel keep reading accurately. Right below that is where you'll dump your holding tanks from. So when you go to dump your holding tanks, you'll hook your sewer hose up to here. Other end goes into the ground, and then you have two valves, a larger black valve and a smaller gray valve. Always dump the black valve first. Once you hear that the contents of that tank are no longer flowing through the sewer hose, you can close the black valve and open the gray valve to use the contents of the gray water holding tank to kind of flush out the sewer hose so that it's a little more pleasant when you have to disconnect it to put it back into storage. Here on the back of the trailer is your folding cargo tray. Fold that down, just pull the pins on either side. The cargo tray is rated for 250 pounds, but that includes the weight of the spare tire and rim. So about 200 pounds left of carrying capacity there. Good for generator, firewood, larger lawn chairs, things that don't fit inside the front storage compartment. Behind that is your hot water tank. So here at the hot water tank, it's a gas electric hot water tank, so it can operate on 110 volt electricity. If you're going to run it on electricity, there's a little red rocker switch in the bottom here that has to be turned to the on position as it is now. There will also be a second switch inside the trailer. Both switches will have to be on to use the hot water tank on electricity. There's two black reset buttons here. Should you ever overheat the tank, most often by starting it up with no water in the tank, you'll have to come out here and reset these two switches before you can start the tank again. This is also where you'll drain the water out of the hot water tank. And you do that by removing this plug at the bottom. On the end of this plug is a rod about this long. It's your anode rod. The purpose of the anode rod is to corrode over time to help preserve the inside lining of the tank. That rod can get quite pitted and corroded looking before it's time to replace. But once it's down to this thin steel bar in the center of the rod, it needs to be replaced. Depending on the quality of the water, every 3 to 5 years, you'll typically have to replace your anode. Before you pull that anode, make sure to use the water pressure relief valve to bleed the pressure off the tank so that the water doesn't spray when you pull the plug anode rod. front of the trailer is where you have your outside kitchen. To extend the drawer, just open that latch and close these latches here. It's a 2-burner gas stove top. You do need to hook up the propane line for that to work. And you'll find a quick connect right here at the back of the stove. The hose for that is here. So the quick connect fitting will hook up to here. And the other quick connect down to here. Once you've hooked that up, there's a valve on both sides that needs to be opened in order for propane to flow. Another quick connect here for your water to hook up. You've got a high-rise faucet or a coiled hose with a high-pressure sprayer to hook into your hot and cold water. The fridge in the outside kitchen is 110 volt powered only, so you'll need to be plugged into power or a generator for that fridge to operate. A couple of vents on this side of the trailer. The larger vent on the top is for your fridge, so you can remove this panel by twisting these 2 locks to access the back of the fridge for some maintenance, repairs, or cleaning, but mostly just a vent. Not very often that you'll need to get in there, just to allow some air to flow through the back of the fridge. And below that is your furnace vent. So the only thing to know with this is it does get very hot. So if you've got young kids around the trailer, make sure they're aware to stay away from that. Fresh water fill is here. So you saw the city water connection on the other side. This is to actually fill the fresh water tank. We recommend doing that with a, you can use a normal garden hose, but we recommend one of those white non-toxic drinking water specific hoses for filling your fresh tank or hooking up to city water. Then you won't get that plasticky garden hose taste in your water. To dump your fresh water holding tank, you'll find a drain valve right underneath. If you draw a line straight down from the fill is where you'll find the drain. You can open that up to drain the water from your fresh water holding tank. Right here is your power awning. This one is the Smart Arm power awning, so it can actually be controlled from the inside or the outside of the trailer. And to activate the Smart Arm awning, you have to press and hold the unlock button on the side of the arm to unlock the controls. And then you can extend or retract the awning using the buttons here. This can also be controlled from inside the trailer. So it extends a full 8 feet. And this one also has the optional motion sensor for the light. So you can turn the awning light on, or you can press and hold this button to turn it to the automatic setting, and it will use a motion sensor to turn the light on whenever it detects motion. This one also has the wind sensor. So there's 3 settings for wind sensitivity, but if the awning senses vibration from wind, it'll pull itself in. So you can set that right there. Don't trust the wind sensor implicitly. If you're leaving the trailer for any length of time and there's a possibility of the wind coming up, we recommend just pulling the awning in. It's also a height adjustable awning. Both sides are adjustable, but typically we recommend leaving one side lower than the other. So you'll adjust the awning just by pulling down on the arm. When you go to retract the awning, make sure you put both arms back to their full height. That'll ensure that the canvas rolls up evenly on the roller tube. To open up your step, grip under the bar with 2 hands, slide out, roll, inside the trailer, we'll go through a few more things. So right inside the entry door are a few switches. You've got a switch for your inside blue ambient lighting, a switch for your outside awning light, and a switch for your main interior lights. Right below that is your slide out and awning controls. You can extend and retract the awning from the inside as well. To extend the slide, just press and hold the out button, and the slide will extend. Just hold the button until the slide's all the way out. Once you hear a ratcheting sound, you know the slide is fully extended, and you can take your finger off the button. That's the ratcheting sound. So come on into the trailer. And here in the kitchen, we'll start with the gas stovetop. So it's a 3-burner gas stovetop. If you turn the burners to light, you can light those burners with the piezo sparker. Always recommend that be the first thing you do after changing your propane tanks or putting a new propane tank on. If you come to the stovetop and turn on all 3 of those burners, once you can light those burners, you know you've bled the air off the propane system, and your fridge, furnace, and hot water tank are going to have no problem lighting up. The only pilot light that you have to worry about in the trailer is for the oven. So to light the pilot in the oven, turn the pilot knob over to pilot on. You'll have to push in on this knob, and you'll light your pilot right under here at the pilot assembly. Once you see a flame there, continue holding in on the knob for 10 to 15 seconds until the flame stays on, and then you can turn the oven up to temperature. When you're finished using the oven, you can turn it back down to the pilot on setting and just leave the pilot burning, or you can turn it all the way off and just relight it next time you need to use the oven. The fridge is automatic gas electric, so when you turn it on, if you put it in mode A, it'll always check for electricity first. If it has electricity, it'll always run on that. In this case, it didn't, so it automatically switches and lights the propane. You can override the automatic to only run on electricity or only run on propane. You may want to do that if you're plugged into a weak breaker, you're worried about blowing breakers, or you may find that the fridge actually cools a little faster on propane than it does on electricity. Having said that, it takes several hours to cool an RV fridge down, so we recommend getting the fridge running the day before you load up. That way it's nice and cold when you load your food into it. This one has some temperature settings, 1 through 5, 1 being the warmest, 5 being the coldest. I usually set it to 4, but you might find that depending on the ambient conditions where you're camping, you may need to adjust that a little bit. To turn off the fridge, press and hold the on button for 3 seconds. Here on the wall is your thermostat. This controls both the heating and cooling systems for the RV. To operate the air conditioning, you need to be plugged into power, which we're not right now, but it's pretty simple to operate. You can slide the system selector over to fan to just run the air conditioner fan. There's 2 fan speeds, low and high. Or you can slide it all the way over to air conditioning, or all the way over to cool to actually have the air conditioning kick in. For the furnace, you slide the system over to heat and slide the thermostat up to the temperature you're comfortable at. The furnace fan comes on immediately. There's only 1 fan speed for the furnace, not like the air conditioner. And after a couple of seconds, we'll hear a click as that burner lights. And there it was. So now give it a few more seconds and we would have warm air blowing through our furnace vents. When the RV comes to temperature, or when you shut off the furnace, the exact same thing happens, only in reverse. The burner has gone out immediately, but that fan's still going to run for 30 seconds to a minute just to go through its cycle. Below that is your propane leak detector. So this is actually a combination propane and carbon monoxide detector. So it'll do three things. It'll alert you to a potential propane leak. If that was the case though, you would almost certainly smell the propane before the alarm will go off. It could alert you to a carbon monoxide situation. Or the third and most common thing that it does is alert you to a low voltage situation. This is wired into the RV's 12-volt battery system. So if your RV battery gets very low, this will chirp like a smoke detector does when its battery is getting low. So if this starts going off, treat it with respect. It could be alerting you to a propane or carbon monoxide situation, but there's a very good chance that it's simply a low voltage problem with your RV battery. On the topic of power, this is your power converter. This is the power center for the entire trailer. So you can see all of your 110 volt circuits are protected by breakers, and all of your 12 volt circuits by fuses. You've got 15 and 40 amp fuses here, and it's not an uncommon thing in an RV to blow a fuse, so we recommend having some spare fuses along, just in case you have to change one at the campground. Here in the bathroom, the switch on the wall is for the bathroom lights, and you've got your monitor panel right beneath that. So you can check here the level of your battery and holding tanks. You can see the battery is completely charged right now. Fresh tank completely empty. Black and gray holding tanks also both completely empty. And this is where you'll activate your water pump and hot water tank. So just a simple on-off switch to activate the water pump so that you can pump water from your fresh water holding tank. And two switches for the hot water heater. The one on the right is for electricity. Remember, if you're running the water heater on electricity, you'll also have to have that red rocker switch on the outside of the tank in the on position. And the second switch is for the direct spark ignition propane. So when you turn that on, the DSI fault light comes on, showing that the burner is not running on the tank. But if we give that just a second, just like the furnace, we should hear the burner light up, and that light will go out. Just like so. So now in 15 or 20 minutes, we would have hot water from the water tank. There's also a notable power outlet in the bathroom. This is your GFI power outlet, your ground fault circuit interrupter. Just like the outlets in your home, in the bathroom of your home with a test and reset button, the difference being in an RV, this is wired in series with all the rest of your power outlets. So if you're ever plugged into power and you find you're not getting any power from your power outlets, come into the bathroom, press the reset button, everything should go back to normal. When you're using your RV's sewer system, you'll want to use a good, potent RV toilet chemical. The chemical is available in liquid, powder, or tablet form, and we sell all three in our parts department. When you go to add chemical to your holding tank, open up a package, pour it into the bowl, and then use the foot flush, push halfway down to fill the bowl with water. It's important to note that that chemical takes a little bit of water to activate it, so always put some water down into the tank with the chemical. Once the bowl's full of water and chemical, you can push the rest of the way down on the pedal to dump it into the tank. You'll want to add new toilet chemical immediately after every time you dump your holding tanks. So when you finish dumping your black holding tank, come in here, add a new charge of chemical, and you should be good until the next time you have to dump your tanks. Couple of other things to cover in here. You've got a smoke detector on the ceiling. Just important to point out that that smoke detector is not wired into the RV's electrical system. It has its own 9-volt battery. So you'll want to test that periodically by pressing the test button. And as long as it chirps like that, then you know that that battery is still good. Here in the bedroom, not a whole lot to cover in here. Main light has a touch button right on the bottom, and the bed lifts up. There's some storage underneath there. Your hot water tank can be accessed from inside underneath the bed. So when you go to winterize the RV, you're going to want to access the hot water tank to close those bypass valves. Right now they're in the open position, allowing water in and out of the hot water tank. When you go to run antifreeze through the system, you want to close both of those valves to isolate the hot water tank so that you can run antifreeze through the cold water and the hot water side of the water system. I think for the most part that covers it. I hopefully you've learned something about the 2018 Connect 241 BHK. If you have any questions, you can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer, or you can check our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thanks for watching.